Hey, it's Paris. And as you may see from the title, these are going to be my initial thoughts on the PlayStation VR2. I want to thank PlayStation for the opportunity to get some extended hands-on time with the PlayStation VR2. And if you've been following my content over the past few years, you may know this is going to be my first real interaction with VR. I mean, over the years, maybe at a couple events here or there, may have tried it out for a few minutes, but the VR2 is my first extended time being able to go hands-on with a VR product. And again, I want to thank PlayStation for that opportunity. I've always purposely said to myself, you know what, I'm going to wait until we get to a 2.0 product for VR before I actually go ahead and jump in. And, you know, over the years, we've obviously seen various hardware products. The Valve Index was actually the first one where I kind of started to consider it. But then even that pandemic, all this stuff happened, I held off on it. But now here we are, PlayStation has their 2.0 product for the PlayStation VR2. And like I said, I've had this thing for a little over a week, and what I want to do right now is I'm going to do this a little bit differently, because the fact that this is my first real impression of VR, I just want to kind of talk about it. I'll be on Kind of Funny talking more about VR2 and a lot of different games. I'll be on Game Attack Radio talking about it over the next couple weeks as well. But since this is kind of my initial jump in to VR, I just want to let you know what I think. So let's do this first. I'm actually going to put this thing on. I'll probably look silly doing it, but let's put this thing on. And I have it on. I can't see anything, so I'm just going to continue to talk while I have it on. The first thing about this VR2 headset is comfort. It's very comfortable. It's very light. It was way lighter than I expected it to be when I took it out of the box, but it's very lightweight. It's very comfortable to put this on. You know, you can go through the adjustments to get it on. You tighten it up in the back and everything, but it feels real good. I don't feel like I have a burden for extended gameplay sessions while I have this on with the headset. Let me take it off here. But again, so you can get a good look at it here. Let's see if that goes into focus. And then you can actually see the lenses inside. Let's do that. And this is 4K resolution, this headset. 120 hertz. Again, the visuals in this are outstanding. I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more as I go into some of the games that I've been playing on this as well. But as I'm talking, this is the actual DualSense controller, or DualSense, Sense controller, I believe, however you say it. But this is for VR. This is the controller for that. So this is the left one. And I'll pull up the right one here so you can kind of see that as well. And again, comfortable. I will say I have big hands, and I think that does come into play a little bit with the controls as I'm kind of trying to find the buttons every now and again as I'm playing through various things. But overall, I mean, pretty good. I really don't have that much of a complaint about these Sense controllers. And again, I'll just hold the headset up while I'm talking here. But I went through a few different games. Horizon Call of the Mountain, which I'll talk a little bit more here in just a second. There's various embargoes and things going on, so I'm not going to go into full reviews right now. I played Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, Tentacular, which was my favorite game. I'll definitely be talking about that. Tetris Effect, Kayak VR Mirage, Cities VR, and Res Infinite. Those were the main games that I played, and I want to thank all the different publishers that sent over review codes that allow me to get some hands-on access with this. So with all that said, what do I think about VR? What is it about VR? Is this the end-all be-all next great thing that we're going to see for gaming and obviously interactions and other mediums as well? I can say, having this for over a week and really putting in hours playing these various games in VR, I'm extremely impressed. I am. Again, I have nothing to go against. Like, is there other hardware that might be better, might be worse? I don't know. The PlayStation VR2 is the only thing that I can actually talk about right now, because this is the only thing that I have experience with. And for me, like I said, very comfortable to put this headset on. Lightweight, no issues there. 4K visuals, very sharp. And the first game that I played was actually Star Wars, was Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. And jumping into that world, I was just like, oh my God, I could not believe it. It was that impressive to be able to go in, and I'm literally just surrounded 360 degrees everywhere being able to play Star Wars. It was incredible. Absolutely was. The next game that I jumped into was Horizon Call of the Mountain. It is the most visually impressive VR game that I've ever experienced. Obviously, I have a small sample size, but it is the most visually impressive VR game that I've experienced so far. Absolutely. To go back into that world of Horizon, and again, in just the VR landscape, it absolutely blew me away. I know some of you have seen some of the early impressions, like you had that opening boat tour as you come in. I was just like, wow, as I'm looking around. And that's kind of the big thing with Horizon is it's just like, I wanted to constantly stop and just look around because that's just how impressive it was. Now, from a gameplay standpoint, did I love it? No, it was okay. And part of the reason with that is, and I'll get into this more when we get into a full review on Horizon Call of the Mountain. Is this a full Horizon game? Absolutely it is. Don't get me wrong. Again, when I talked about I have big hands with the controllers, there's sometimes with the buttons, it's kind of losing my place. There's a couple different dodge mechanics that you have when you get into the fights with the bow and everything. You do a lot of climbing in this game. It's Call of the Mountain, but it was just okay for me, the combat stuff. I felt like I was fighting the controls more than I was actually getting into the flow of the game. But that could very well be a me problem. I've actually not talked to anybody about my Horizon experience yet, so I don't know if it's comparable or not. But that was my experience, being able to use the Sense controllers, going in and just, like I said, fumbling around with the button placement a little bit. Like I said, when I would get into combat situations, I was kind of having to like make sure I remembered where their buttons were so I could dodge and do things like that. It got better as I went along, but I did struggle with that early on. Now the third game, Tentacular, that was the one for me. That was the one. You guys may have seen me tweet at a certain point. I go, holy shit, I have a new favorite game. That was the moment where VR clicked for me. Not only from a visual standpoint, but from a gameplay standpoint. The way that game was able to use the Sense controllers, because there's a lot of physics-based stuff that you're doing, like puzzle things. It totally clicked for me. Not to mention Tentacular visually. I loved the art style that it had. I loved the characters in there. I loved the language that they were doing in there. This little city that you could interact with, that like an octopus or squid. So your two hands are tentacles, and that's how you interact with everything. Absolutely adored that game. Loved it. I know that's a game that has already been out since last year, coming from Devolver Digital, I believe, is the publisher. But this was, again, my first experience with it, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I loved it. It's not the longest experience in the world, but it's a fun, heartwarming story. Nice little mystery in there that you get to uncover as you go through. And again, I love the physics mechanics of using the Sense controller as tentacles as you were able to interact with everything in that game. So that was absolutely my favorite thing coming out of experiencing the VR2 as far as the games. Like I said, the other games, like I played Kayak VR Mirage, fun. I enjoyed it. Again, another visual showcase. You're literally getting in a kayak and you just go into different parts of the world, and you're kayaking like you're in Antarctica, as an example. You get the kayak around through the different icebergs. You're seeing penguins, things like that. I believe go to Norway. I believe that's another place that you can go kayaking in. But kind of fun. And I know there's other modes. There's a multiplayer mode in there. There's challenge modes in that as well. But from just a pure VR experience, definitely felt immersed. And I think that's the common theme that I can give you with a lot of the games that I ever play. I felt immersed into that world. Again, I'm a VR newbie, but putting on this headset, I mean, literally, the light leak, like I forget what the term is, but people talk about light leaking in from outside the helmet. Had no issues with this headset at all. Like, I put this thing on, adjusted to what I needed it to be, worked perfect. Going back to Horizon really quick, eye tracking. That's another thing that this headset does, and it does it very well. The eye tracking in Horizon Call of the Mountain was phenomenal. To literally be able to look at a certain menu item or whatever, and it literally tracks to that, and you just press the button and you're on to the next screen, was phenomenal. Really, really impressed by that. Again, when I talk about Horizon Call of the Mountain, again, I liked it. Did I love it? No, I liked it. Visual showcase, but it is definitely something to showcase what the VR2 can do from a haptics feedback standpoint, and in the controllers, like I said, the eye tracking in there, the visuals in 4K, all of that just popped, absolutely popped, as I went through and was playing Horizon. And again, these other games to varying degrees were able to do the same thing as well. Now, like I said, I played Tetris Effect, I played Res Infinite as well. I mean, you know, these are games that have already been played before, but now in the VR setting, again, you felt immersed into it. I do have to laugh about Tetris. I almost felt like the blocks were dropping too fast for me as I was trying to keep up with that. But overall, had a great time being able to play those games. Just really fun. Again, Res, just the music and the beats and everything that's coming with that. It was phenomenal as well. Now, the one I was kind of disappointed in was Cities VR. And I'm a Cities fan. I like the Cities genre. I've played it on Xbox. I've played it on PC. And this was obviously my first experience doing Cities in VR. Again, immersed into the Cities world. But as I'm building and everything, I didn't necessarily like the control layout. You could definitely tell this was a port and not something that was built from the ground up for PSVR2 and the VR2 controllers, the Sense controllers. So I kind of fought with that a little bit, wasn't necessarily a fan of it. But again, these are early days with the launch lineup of games that are coming out. So I kind of get you're going to see a lot of ports. Again, like I talk about Tentacular, that was my favorite game. That is obviously already out on other VR systems, you know, right now. But I mean, overall, I am impressed by this. Like I said, I went from being definitely a VR skeptic to, all right, I'm gonna give this a chance when 2.0 comes out, to now that I have 2.0 in my hands with VR2, I'm impressed. From a visual standpoint, from the control standpoint, I think it nails what it's trying to do. So the next thing is going to be, what are the games that are coming out? I think Horizon Call and Mountain is going to be a good start for that. Again, I have nothing to compare this to. I've not played Half-Life Alyx or any of these other VR games that are out, but I would say visually, this is right at the top for me. The controls, you know, it gets better as you go along, but I did fight with them a little bit early on. But Horizon Call of the Mountain is definitely an impressive launch title for the VR2. Now, obviously, we'll have other things coming out. I did not get a chance to try it, like the Gran Turismo 7. No Man's Sky is going to be in VR. Resident Evil 8 is going to be in VR. There's other things that are coming that I haven't had a chance to try yet. I did get Thumper right before this recording, so I've not had a chance to dive into that yet. So I'll be doing those things over the next couple weeks, and we'll be talking about it on Kind of Funny. We'll talk about it on Gamertag Radio as I go through this and I start to immerse myself more into the VR format. But overall, again, I love it. I really love this. From a hardware standpoint, this is extremely impressive. PlayStation has done a fantastic job with the VR2 hardware. This will definitely carry their VR ambitions for a very long time from a hardware standpoint. The next thing is going to be, what are we going to see from a first party standpoint in VR from PlayStation? Obviously, what type of support are we going to see from third party for VR from VR, if I could talk correctly, for VR2. But overall, the elephant in the room, the price. It's $550 to buy this at launch. It's not cheap. But when I compare it to something like the Valve Index that I was actually willing to go buy, I mean, that's $1,000 right now, right? So this is virtually half the price of that. And before PlayStation, just full disclosure, before PlayStation sent this unit over to me for review, I did have VR2 on pre-order. I was willing to invest in it because I wanted to try it. I wanted to give VR a real chance. And, you know, obviously I'm glad I got a chance to review this and to jump in. And I can happily say that if I did not get this for a review and I spent my $550 to get this, it would have been money well spent, because I do see the potential in this. I do see the future of what VR can be, as long as we get the support from it, from a game standpoint, from these publishers, from PlayStation, from the third parties, as long as they're making VR games. And when I say that, as I start to wrap this up, what I mean by that is make games from the ground up for VR that can take advantage of this hardware to its fullest, not porting things over that were just standard regular games. Oh, let's make it VR now. Obviously, we're going to see some of that stuff in early days. I get it. But as we get into year 2, year 3 of VR2, I want to see more games that 100% are built from the ground up for VR. Again, this is why I like Tentacular so much, because you can tell that it was built from the ground up for VR, and it totally works. It hooked me in. Like I said, it clicked. The VR phenomenon clicked for me with that game. So very impressed by that. Very impressed by this hardware. So again, yes, it is $550 at launch. Obviously, that's not cheap, so it's not going to be for everyone. But if you can afford to go pick this up at launch, obviously take a look at the launch lineup, see if there's something there for you. I definitely would recommend Horizon Call of the Mountain. I look at Star Wars more as like a demo than just like an actual full game. But again, from a visual standpoint, to be immersed into that world of Star Wars, you will be impressed by it. Obviously, I'm gonna recommend Tentacular because I think that's a phenomenal game and really highlights what VR can do. And obviously, we know more things are coming here in the next week or two that'll be available for VR2. So I'll have more thoughts on things like Gran Turismo 7, obviously Resident Evil 8, things like that as those games become available and they're out. So these are my opening thoughts on VR. I think I'm a believer. I think I'm a believer now. I definitely see me putting a lot of time into this unit and really exploring VR and seeing what its full potential can be. So these are my opening thoughts for the PlayStation VR2. And really quick before I get out of here, I forgot to talk about the audio. So this headset does come with some stereo headphones that you can plug in your ear. Do I even have them near me? I don't even think I have it near me right now, but it has some headphones that you can plug in, these stereo headphones. I do not recommend them at all. They're not good. They're just simply not. I'm going to show you what I do for audio, and you can take full advantage of the PlayStation 3D audio with this. So again, let me put this on. I'm doing this blind. So I hope this works the way I think. But I use the Pulse 3D headset, and to kind of give a look, works fine. Get the full 3D audio out of the PlayStation 5. I mean, the sound that I was getting during Horizon Call of the Mountain was phenomenal. It was great. Again, Star Wars. I felt like I was in Tatooine at Mos Eisley in the bar, right? All that stuff was great from an audio standpoint. You'll have no issues. If you have the Pulse 3D audio headset, obviously it almost feels like it was made to be a part of this. But do I recommend the stereo headsets that come with it? Look, if you don't have anything else that's compatible, I get it, to use it in a pinch, but definitely go invest in some 3D Pulse headsets to use with the PlayStation VR2. So again, this is Paris. Like I said, I had to put this edit in because I was like, oh wait, I didn't talk about the audio. So now I talked about the audio. The audio reproduction of 3D audio is great in the VR2. You can use Pulse 3D headset with your VR2 headset. Works great. So again, this is Paris. Thank you so much for checking out my thoughts, my opening thoughts on the PlayStation VR2. And I will see you soon.